Hi, this is Brendan from Watto Training, and in this tutorial we take a look at right turn dangers at T sections for novice car drivers. A T section is where two roads meet, one that continues and one that terminates. At most intersections, one road will physically terminate, and it is important to understand which is the terminating road and which is the continuing road if there are no road markings or signs indicating otherwise. The terminating road is the stem of the T. Right turns at T sections can be challenging for some learner drivers. They need to be managed with due care and attention by a driver trainer to minimize risks and build the learner's competence and confidence. Risk assess your right turns. A risk assessment can help a trainer to determine how severe the risk is and whether any existing control measures are effective. Consider your teaching process of right turns at T sections. Create a clear learning program. Make the material matter. Deliver your sessions with purpose and passion. Have a learner-centered focus and reinforce with repetition and feedback. Some key instructional tips. Keep it simple and focus on what matters. Do not let yourself be overwhelmed. Be concise. To be concise means the instructor presents the information clearly in as few words as possible without skimping on the content. Make every word count. Be clear. To be clear means the instructor doesn't complicate the message. Break the information down into bite-sized pieces. Don't try to achieve too much too soon. Be patient and progress at the rate the learner can manage. Make sure the student is correctly set up in the driver's seat before driving and conducting any driving activities. Make sure the student's mirrors are correctly set up before driving. Make sure the learner keeps their eyes on the move throughout the turn and is prepared to turn their head if and when necessary. Ensure your learner uses their peripheral vision. Peripheral vision is the part of vision that occurs outside the very center of gaze. Be mindful of pedestrians, especially children, bicycles, and animals. Start on quiet roads and build up the learner's skills in simpler situations before progressing to more challenging right turns. Remember, we need to learn how to crawl before we learn how to run. Apply the system of vehicle control. Step 1. Plan ahead. Gather the information about the situation. Are there any signs, signals, and markings that are telling me anything I need to know, for example? Number 2, do a quick mirror check. What's happening behind me? Number 3, signal to the right. Let everyone know where you're going. Number 4, drop your speed. And number 5, gear down. Number 6, once we get up to the T, you should be scanning, looking that it's all clear, and then when safe to do so, proceeding around to the right. Sounds easy, doesn't it? Let's take a closer look at some of the skills relating to the right turns at T sections, as well as some of the common errors made by learner drivers. Steering control. The learner driver must steer a safe and steady course and maintain the correct course in a manner that is appropriate for the road and traffic conditions. Steering operation. The learner driver must operate the steering wheel in the appropriate manner. There are two methods that can be used, the hand over hand or the pull-push method. After a turn, it is permissible for the steering wheel to slip back through the hands, providing the learner maintains control of the steering. This doesn't mean removing the hands from the wheel. More common errors. We can see in this diagram that we've got the learner driver taking a right turn, and if the learner driver does not steer a steady course, for example, wanders off the course, jerky operation, unaware of incorrect position of front wheels when moving off, they could slam into that car parked on the other side of the road. More common errors made with steering. The learner driver operates the steering wheel incorrectly, that is, places their hands inside the rim of the steering wheel, steers with one hand only, steers using the palm of one hand, holds the steering wheel with arms crossed or in a manner that restricts movement of the wheels, for example, one arm resting on the door. An absolute no-no when steering The learner driver removes both hands from the steering wheel whilst the vehicle is in motion. The learner driver loses control of the steering wheel as well. That would be deemed a critical driving error. Okay, the next one, let's take a look at observation and scanning. Our training objective here, the learner must scan, observe and monitor the driving environment in every direction as appropriate to the driving task. Some common errors with observation and scanning. Fails to scan and observe all the road space ahead, to the sides and behind the vehicle. For example, at a controlled intersection where the controls are not facing the vehicle. Late scanning, rush scanning and not scanning in the correct direction for potential hazards. So for trainers, make sure that you're promoting high-level observation and scanning of what's going on. We can see in this situation here, this happened to me in real life. I was coming up to a T section and I was taking a standard right turn, and then suddenly car D decided to pull out from the side of the road. So not only do you need to be looking, as it says, mirror check on the approach and then looking up and down the road, but just being aware if you're in a busy area where there's cars parked on the opposite side of the road that one of those might pull out. Hazard detection. The training objective for this component is the learner driver must detect and respond appropriately to any hazard during their drive. So we see a range of icons there showing some of the potential hazards that may be on or near the road. Accelerator control. The training objective here is that the learner driver must operate the accelerator pedal smoothly and progressively when accelerating. That is very important when taking right turns at T sections for smooth control on the takeoff. Gears. The learner driver must demonstrate the correct usage of all the gears appropriate for speed, vehicle and driving condition. So again, what we're looking at here is promoting the system of vehicle control and putting it into practice on the approach to the T and taking that smooth, controlled, safe right turn. And I've just put a couple of icons there when it talks about the driving conditions. If it's wet, a driver would need to gear down, slow down, and take a little bit more time to make sure that things were safe. Signaling, also known as indicating. Our training objective here is that the learner must signal in the correct direction long enough to give sufficient, and that word means enough, sufficient warning to other drivers and pedestrians at a T intersection where the continuing road curves to the right, leaving the continuing road to proceed straight ahead onto the terminating road. So in this diagram we can see that vehicle A has come up to the T section with the right indicator on. We can see a cyclist to the right and also a pedestrian on the other side of the road. Now, by having that correct signaling, the pedestrian and the cyclist can look over at car A and see that flashing indicator on to communicate to them and help everyone make safe decisions. Now we're going to take a look at what is known as judgment. Now, judgment directly links to the concept of giving way. The learner driver must judge and utilize the safe gap in traffic when negotiating intersections without causing other vehicles to take evasive action. So if we're in a 60 zone, as shown in this diagram, we've got a bus, a car, a pedestrian on the far side of the road, and a cyclist as well riding along. Vehicle A comes up to take a right turn at the T section, and the driver must make the correct decision and respond appropriately with regard to judgment of the speed and distance of any traffic or pedestrian. So this is where it's high attention to focusing on what's happening and also judging the speed at which vehicles are coming towards vehicle A so that no one has to deviate or slow down or anything as a result of us pulling out. Some learners have said to me, yeah, but look, we're in a 60 zone and I'm pretty sure that car was coming along at 80 k's an hour. We still have to put safety first. And pulling out and blaming them for driving too fast in a 60 zone isn't the priority. The priority is safety first. Okay, the next thing that can cause issues on right turns at T sections is in-vehicle distractions. Distractions can divert the driver's attention and impact their reaction times. Common in-vehicle distractions include passengers drinking and eating, reaching for loose objects, and personal grooming. Drugs and alcohol. The use of drugs and alcohol impair the driver's ability to safely use a vehicle. Drivers with a blood alcohol content of 0.05 are twice as likely to be involved in a crash. The use of illegal drugs such as cannabis and methamphetamines, e.g. ice, may also increase the risk of driver accidents and fatalities. Fatigue is mental or physical tiredness that affects a person's ability to function. So in relation to our safe right turns, the fatigue can have the impact of impairing their performance by reducing attentiveness, slowing their reaction times, and affecting their judgment. So always be wary. There are some people driving around on the road who are tired, and we've got to cater for all sorts of drivers on the road. We can't just say, well, I'm a safe driver, and assume that everyone's going to do the right thing. Okay, the next training objective we're looking at is safety margins, also known as our crash avoidance space. The learner must ensure that there is an appropriate buffer zone in front of and to the sides of the vehicle. Common safety margin errors include the following. The learner drives too close to parked vehicles, cyclists, pedestrians, or oncoming traffic when traveling at normal road speeds without compromising the safety. Road position. The driver should select and maintain an appropriate position on the approach, during, and immediately after the turn. Driving to conditions, including speed. What does drive to conditions mean for motorists on, let's say, a wet day? Turn your lights on, increase your visibility, and make yourself seen. Avoid harsh acceleration and sudden stops. Sudden acceleration and braking will result in loss of traction, skidding to your vehicle, and possible loss of control. Increase the following distance between yourself and the car in front of you. Your vehicle will take longer to stop in the wet. Most importantly, reduce your speed and adhere to the yellow roadside warning and speed advisory signs. They're there for a reason. If the road is wet, today is not the day to travel on the speed limit. Slow down. Don't rush and leave yourself time to get you to your destination, mindful that you will need to travel at a reduced speed. Let's have a look at two concepts related to, often brought up in, let's say, defensive driving courses. The first one is understeer. Understeer is what occurs when a car steers less than the amount intended by the driver. So we can see if the driver pulls out from that curb, that the parked car on the side of the road, we may run into it. Now, this is a real photo that I took near my place of a crash that happened. I don't know if it was a learner driver or not, but a vehicle was coming up to a T-section, and the white Honda Jazz, I think it is, was parked on the other side of the road, and someone drove around the corner straight into the driver's door. So there's an example of where that one's occurred. Understeer is often the result of accelerating too rapidly around the corner. So we're again coming back to this concept of making sure that we are taking the corner at the correct speed, correct gear, correct road position. Oversteer is what occurs when a car turns or steers by more than the amount intended by the driver. So in this diagram, we can see our vehicle A coming around the corner, turning too much to the right and heading towards car B coming down the road. So we've got to be very careful with our learner drivers, not only for cars parked on the side of the road, but also the oncoming traffic, that we have that nice smooth movement around the corner. We've also got to look at our signs, signals and markings, and this was brought up in the drive to the conditions slide. Our performance outcome here is the learner must obey any regulatory road sign, traffic signal, or road marking. In this case, we've got an advisory sign telling the driver that there's a bend of 50 kilometers per hour coming up. When we take a look at this T section, we've got the directional sign at the far side of the road telling us that the road goes in two directions. And also we've got the double continuous lines as well positioned there. Now this photo was taken in Stanthorpe, so you can see it's got basically a rural setting, and we would also expect possibly some more heavy vehicles around these bigger corners as well. So the note here too with the double continuous center lines is do not cut those on your turns. The driver needs to come up and position the vehicle correctly at 0.6 on the system of vehicle control. Final tips. Encourage your learner Don't criticize. Do lots of practice and promote the benefits of quality practice. Start off in simple situations to build sound turning techniques, then gradually progress to more challenging situations. Be patient and keep it safe. This has been Brendan from Watto Training. Thanks for watching.